Members, our next submitter is Deane Jessep, who we have for 5 minutes.
Hello there.
Kia ora, Deane. Good to see you. Thanks for coming online. We have you for 5 minutes, including any questions we may have, to submit on the Treaty of Waitangi Principles Bill. I'll head straight over to you.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Good afternoon. My name is Deane Jessep. I'm a 6th-generation New Zealander, and I'm here today in support of the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill. What makes New Zealand exceptional to me is that when the last great landmass on planet Earth settled by not just one, but 2 great seafaring peoples, the Polynesians and the British, both journeyed vast oceans driven by courage and vision to make this place home. More remarkable is how they eventually came together, creating a unique legacy in the Treaty of Waitangi, a founding document unlike any other in history. This shared history of exploration is captured perfectly in the inscription on the John Logan Campbell Monument atop Mangakeke, One Tree Hill. This monument was erected in accordance with the will of the late Sir John Logan Campbell, who visualised and desired that a towering obelisk should be erected on the site of Mangakeke as a permanent record of his admiration for the achievements and character of the great Māori people. It continues, the first known Māori to visit these shores was Kupe, a Polynesian navigator in the year 925. The first settlement under Toi took place in 1150. The first organised emigration from Hawaii took place in 1350, when the ancestors of the present Māori race arrived at various points on these coasts in the now historic canoes Tainui, Arawa, Mataatua, Aotea, Takitimu, Parota, Tokomaru, and others. In 1840, the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, whereby the Māori accepted the sovereignty of the British Crown and were thereby secured in their rights and privileges as British subjects. So that inscription was set down in 1940, agreeing that wording took nearly 3 decades of consultation between Māori and European Kiwis, but they got there in the end. This is why it's such a shame to see the last 3 decades of bureaucracy and court processes unwinding meanings we had previously set in stone. The inscription acknowledges the many waka that brought the first Polynesians from far-flung places across the Pacific. Europeans too journeyed on vessels such as the Randolph, Cressy, Sir George Seymour, and Charlotte Jane. Different waka, but driven by the same human spirit of exploration and a desire to forge a home. My own ancestor, Thomas Jessep, was one such voyager. In 1854, he left behind his life as a publican, bringing his family to the other side of the world aboard the Caroline Middleton. Like many before him, Thomas made the ultimate sacrifice. 9 days into the journey, he died and was buried at sea near the Canary Islands. His son, Charles, continued to New Zealand, where my great-grandfather, Percy, was born. Thanks to the great effort and sacrifice of his tupuna, to me at least, Percy is tangata whenua of New Zealand. Percy went on to farm the east coast near Tutera, side by side with Ngāti Kāninu of the Waka Takitimu, where the Jessep family continues to farm to this day. Though I've started my own family and moved elsewhere, my cousins maintain a connection to that land. This shared history of working the same soil, respecting the same mountains and waters, is another thread in mine and our nation's tapestry of unity. My own children are descended from Nohoroa, elder brother of Te Raupaha. Initially hesitant, Nohoroa eventually signed Te Treaty of Waitangi at Cloudy Bay. Remarkably, Nohoroa insisted that his son-in-law, English whaler Joseph Toms, also signed the Māori version of the treaty, so that he would share in the blame if his grandchildren lost their land, demonstrating how even in 1840, forward-thinking leaders were concerned with unity and shared responsibility for their joint mokopuna. Toms was the only European to sign the Māori version, and I can assure you his descendants are still welcome here today. There's one sitting over there. This brings me to why I support the bill. The Honourable Ruth Richardson observed in her submission, Parliament has been missing in action as the whole treaty industry overreach has evolved and gathered steam. I agree. The courts have filled a vacuum by inventing concepts like partnership where none was mentioned in the treaty itself. Parliament is our supreme legislative authority. It's not only Parliament's right, but its responsibility to define these principles clearly. Without this clarity, we risk important polarising politics from overseas and talking past each other using terms that lack shared meaning. This bill's requirement for a referendum ensures that we as New Zealanders will collectively determine the fundamental principles. This isn't just about legal definitions, it's about shared understanding and how we move forward together. The bill acknowledges historical settlements whilst drawing a definitional line, allowing future generations a sense of unity and equality. It provides clarity that we need to focus on our shared identity rather than our differences. This shared identity is what I'm really in support of. My vision is for a New Zealand where we celebrate our Māori heritage, British traditions, and the unique culture we've woven together. A place where we understand that the number of generations here isn't what matters, but rather the whakarero of our shared great explorers, and the wonderful place we call home. This bill offers us the chance to agree clear definitions, to have a genuine national conversation through referendum, and ultimately build a stronger, more unified New Zealand. Thank you for considering my submission.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much for that, Deane. It's an interesting submission, and thank you for your written submission, which we've got in front of us as well. That does bring us to the 5 minutes, so there's no time for questions, but thanks very much for taking the time to make your submission.
You're welcome, and thank you for your effort too.